Hey boys and girls, welcome to Art Recycled with Mrs. Hollemeyer. Today we are going to use this really fun art medium, and it is called shrink film. Shrink film is a medium where you get to draw on these plastic sheets, and as you can see, I drew a flower on this one. This stuff actually will shrink down to 20% of its size. So what you're seeing right here will shrink down to be this size, and it forms a thicker plastic that you can make small pieces of artwork with, earrings, name tags, magnets, you name it, whatever you want. So today, boys and girls, I'm going to show you how to do some letter art by making your own name tag. And you can choose to make this into something you would clip onto your backpack or something you own, or boys and girls, you can just leave it plain like this and not have any of this hardware. The basic supplies you're going to need is you're going to need white printer paper or notebook paper, scissors, a pencil, colored pencils, a Sharpie, and sandpaper. Optional, you can have a hole punch or have this hardware from Hobby Lobby or Michael's, but you definitely do not need that. So boys and girls, one thing I'm going to show you today with the letter art, as you can see with Thomas's name here, this is actually the side I drew and I colored on, except you're going to find that there's one problem. When I flip it over to the smooth side, and this is the side that's supposed to be facing up, Thomas's name is backwards. So I'm going to show you today how to do this name tag art with the idea in mind that when you're coloring on one side, what you're really going to get is the reversed image on the side that's supposed to be facing up. Alright boys and girls, so the first thing you're going to need is your white piece of printer paper or your white piece of notebook paper. What you want to do is you want to measure, if you're going to make this name tag here, what you want to do is you want to measure about 3 inches down, or an easier way to do this without measuring at all is I'm just going to take and fold my paper in half and then fold the paper again. That gives me kind of these rectangles that are about, maybe not 3, but about 2.5 inches wide. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut one of them off. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my shrink film, which is about the same size as the printer paper. I'm going to lay it down and I'm going to lay this on top. And I'm going to use my Sharpie, boys and girls, to kind of trace the bottom of the paper and cut my shrink film to the size that I want it to be. All right, now before I start working with the film at all, what I'm actually going to draw on first is this white paper. And I'm going to use the name Mark today just because that's the name that I feel like using. And boys and girls, when I draw today, you're going to see that I'm drawing Mark's name the normal way, going across like this. And I'm going to try to think of a font or a type of letter that's going to make his name decorative. So a font, when you go into Microsoft Word or Pages, it's the different types of styles of letters that you could use. And I'm not necessarily going to copy one of these, but I may just look at them to just kind of get an idea for what type of letters I want to do. Now, my first name is Kathy, so whenever you're drawing a word, what I like to do is I always like to start with the middle letter, because if I start with the middle letter, it's going to help me get all my other letters in the right spot. Since Mark has 4 letters, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my white paper and I'm going to fold it like this. That way I get 4 rectangles and Mark's letters and his name are going to be spaced out evenly. So now I'm going to take my Sharpie and I'm going to draw Mark's name. You can draw this out in pencil first if you want to and then Sharpie it. That's totally okay. All right, boys and girls, now that my name and design is laid out, here is where the tricky part is. So this is the obviously forward on the white paper, but if I do it this way on the shrink film, this direction, it's going to be backwards. So I traced it with Sharpie or drew it with Sharpie just because I know that when I flip this over, I can now see how the letters in the name are going backward. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my cut shrink film and I'm going to lay it over my name and I'm going to rub it with sandpaper. That sandpaper is going to allow it to get rough and textured so that when I draw on it with Sharpie and colored pencil, it's going to stick to the shrink film. All right, boys and girls, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use my colored pencils to color this in. And I like colored pencils for this project because you can blend pencils to get really cool effects like you see in the T here, and even the white will show up really well. Alright, boys and girls, once this is colored, you are ready to put this into the oven. Now, if you want to do the keychain idea or turn this into a necklace or earrings or whatnot, you are going to need a hole punch, and you want to take your hole punch and hole punch it fairly close to the edge of the plastic. Alright, boys and girls, so the next step you may want mom and dad's help for. You are going to set the oven to about 300 degrees. As you can see, mine is heating up right now, it's at 280. And you're going to need a cookie sheet with some parchment paper on it. Make sure it is parchment paper. That's meant to go in the oven, boys and girls. Don't use wax paper. And you're going to lay your project on top of your cookie tray. So boys and girls, here's Mark's name tag. It's out of the oven. One thing I forgot to mention is, besides having parchment paper under the shrink film, you may also want to take a piece of parchment paper and lay it over the shrink film. This is going to curl up in the oven, and if it touches, it may stick to itself. So that piece of parchment paper on the top is going to prevent that from happening. If it does curl up and you see it stick to itself, you want to take it out of the oven and then take a spatula and just flatten it, and that helps it to stay flat. So as you can see, there's the hole that I hole punched, and this is my hardware that I got from Hobby Lobby or Michael's. I'll just put that hook through that ring, stick it in, and now my name tag is done. All right, I hope you had fun with this cool craft. Keep being creative, and I'll see you next time. Bye.